Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 86. Big Box Steve on the mic, Big Smooth, Fresh West. And we are getting later into the season, it seems like. So we're talking football and, college and NFL, and season seems to be flying by pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that today and, updating some fantasy football, how the podcast is going, stuff like that. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you are listening on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, appreciate the listens. If there's any comments that you want to let us know, anything you want us to talk about here about, please leave a comment in the comment section. We'll get back to you. All right. So, uh, shoot, no trivia this week. Totally forgot to get a trivia question for you guys. Um, but let's talk. Let's talk some college football. And one thing I want to start off with is, not as exciting as it used to be. I don't feel like, but the Heisman Trophy, I feel like it's kind of gone down a little bit. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like it used to be such a big thing in college football.
Well, I'm still thinking it, but there's not really anyone that's galvanizing the country right now. I mean, who I don't even like Penix, Washington's undefeated, but they haven't looked that great, right? He's not putting up
Right.
huge Caleb Williams numbers. Um, Jaden Daniels, what they have like 3 losses now. So you kind of Caleb Williams has a bunch of loss. They always take into account losses when it comes to the Heisman.
Yeah.
And so the front runners that you would have thought for the Heisman, their teams aren't doing that good. So you have to wait on other players. And it's not been like, even like Marvin Harrison Jr., he looks good, but the quarterback play has made it so he can't get the numbers.
Right. The the odds, like the betting odds for winning Heisman, like you're right, Caleb Williams, he's gone way down, right? Like he was odds on favorite to start the season, and now he's like 10th or something like that. And right now you look at, I mean, Penix has the numbers. He's got a few more interceptions than some of the other quarterbacks because he think he's got like 7 interceptions or something like that. Where you look at like Bo Nix and Caleb Williams, they got and what's the guy from Florida State, Travis?
Travis, yeah.
Yeah, they only got like 2 or 4 interceptions, right? And so their interception numbers are down, but they're throwing 25, 26 touchdowns. So I think, numbers wise, with Penix, them being undefeated, I think he's got to be the front runner right now. He's definitely the odds on front runner, right? Like if you want to go make a bet on who's going to win the Heisman, you're going to get the worst odds on Penix.
Right.
Uh, in general, I was looking back at this list of one of these reasons this came up is if you look back at the list of like former Heisman winners over the last, 30 years and like how they did in the NFL and things like that, like it's not super impressive. Like you just don't,
Well, that's the history of the Heisman, though. I mean, you can go back
yeah,
even farther. Heisman is a best college player award. Like
yeah,
we could take Tim Tebow, for instance. Everyone knew he wasn't going to be a great pro. Like Tommy Frazier, everyone knew he wasn't going to be a great pro. Like people like that. Um, but they were celebrated when they won because they did it with more flash. And I mean,
yeah,
Penix, I don't even know an interview or anything. Like Charles Desmond Howard takes a kickoff return for a touchdown or punt return and then does the Heisman pose. There's no flash or anything out of these. They have no personality.
yeah, yeah. I don't
I
know.
mean, we live in Oregon, and I don't think I've ever even heard Bo Nix talk really.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Here's Bo Nix. Bo Nix has got 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 78% passer rating, 129. I mean, QBR is 129. I mean, he's got just as good stats. Honestly, it's who, the Heisman gets chosen before the championship games, right? Before the Pac-12 championship games, right? So
No, I think it's
is it
the
after?
week of the
Oh, it's the
like
weekend
the
after.
yeah.
So whoever wins that Washington Oregon rematch is probably Washington Oregon. I think.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right now
What is
your front
Travis's
runners.
numbers?
Oh,
Pretty
it's
good.
19 and 3, 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Oh my god. They're pretty
But
good.
then what's his rushing
19
yards?
and 2. 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think he's got some touchdowns on the ground, but so does Nick's. Nick's got like 5 touchdowns rushing as well. Um, but Caleb Williams also has like 7 touchdowns rushing. I think that's their advantage over Penix because I don't think Penix runs a
no.
lot and he doesn't has a lot of running touchdowns at all. And so I think that's an advantage for Travis or Nick's or Caleb Williams. But Penix right now, statistically, he's got the yards, he's got the touchdowns, and he's got the record. So he's kind of in the lead. I think that's probably why he's the favorite. Um, but yeah, I don't know. You're right, Derek, in the sense that it's not as flashy, I guess, or maybe the guys playing now aren't as flashy, but it just seems to like it
Well,
used to
you
be
also
such
have
a
Knicks and there you go.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say Knicks and Penix are both like 100 years old. So that also goes into effect. It's like they're both like 8 year seniors.
It's honestly it. The thing is since there hasn't been the running backs for so many years, it used to be dominated by running backs to Heisman, and that was the flash or a big or I mean, big
Yeah,
running backs, and it's like people just want to take the top two teams and take the quarterback, and he's the Heisman. It's supposed to be the best, most outstanding player in all of college football. It's like saying Michigan's quarterback should get the Heisman because maybe they finished number one, McCarthy. But is he the most outstanding player in college football? No. It's like there's a loss in value in that. You don't have these big play guys, even in the top five, they're all quarterbacks.
yeah. Well,
Well,
it's a
it's you
passing
don't
league.
have a yeah. You don't have a defensive player this year that is like heads and tails above everyone on offense. You know what I mean? In the years past, when it was like Woodson or um what Manti Te'o and like Sue, when they were in the running for the Heisman, it was because they were so dominant on defense. I can't even tell you a defensive player this year that's super dominant. You know what I mean? Maybe like they early on were saying it was going to be Hunter from Colorado, but then he got hurt and then they stunk. So
Yeah, I mean Hunter, he was playing the two-way position, so he definitely had that advantage playing corner and receiver. I could see him if he had stayed healthy and done well, but right, that injury. Uh, but I mean, to one thing Wes was saying is these days it's so pass heavy in even college and the NFL for some of these teams that I mean, I guess it's hard for a running back to go out there and win this.
I can't. They
Yeah,
have to be more of a dual threat guy.
right. Well, look at the kid from Oklahoma State, right? Um, what's he got? Like 1,300 yards rushing already?
Uh,
And he still got they still got like 4 games left. This guy could hit 200 yards a game. This guy could rush for 2,000 yards. And he's nobody's talking about him.
well, in the last 20 years, you've only had 3 running backs win the Heisman.
Yeah.
That was Derrick Henry was the last one, 2015. Then you had Mark Ingram and Reggie Bush.
Yeah, two Alabama guys and
USC.
Reggie. Yeah,
But then other than that, yeah, it's quarterback, receiver, quarterback. But then if you look at some of these quarterbacks, um, like Kyler Murray, that team wasn't winning national championship, but he put
right.
up huge numbers. Baker Mayfield, same thing. Lamar Jackson, those three all went in a row is because they were flashy and they put up the huge numbers, not because their teams were good.
Well, yeah, I think this year they're so close in numbers that it's going to default though to record.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you'll see, unless somebody goes off. I mean, Nick's lately has been going pretty wild with his stats.
Well, if Oregon wins out, then yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
they'll be in the playoffs. That's like if you have your top seven teams or so, if they any of them win out, I know they all can't, all of them, but any of those seven win out, they're in, right?
right.
I mean, because that means one of the teams ahead of them will lose.
Yeah, definitely. I think um, Bo Nix, yeah, winning out and then keeping his numbers where they're at probably would win it if Oregon wins out. Not even obviously it's not even the playoff game that matters. It's just winning that Pac-12
Right.
championship. So we'll see how that goes. But it was interesting. I was looking into a little bit of that, and it's just I don't know. I remember it being more of a big deal. I guess maybe it's just me. Maybe it is a big deal to other people. But I'm like looking at that, going like, yeah, who cares?
Well, and then in years past, you had more than one guy that was really doing well too. So it was more of an intrigue of a competition. It was
Right.
either you had someone out of this world statistics or it was two guys going up against each other. But you haven't really, yeah, it's kind of everyone's kind of the same this year.
Yeah, it really does feel like anybody's trophy at this point. So yeah, it's a weird race. So speaking of some of these Heisman candidates, you look at Ohio State, still there at number one, even though they struggled a little against Rutgers. I don't know if you guys saw any of that.
Yeah, early on they did, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, because they were down at halftime. I mean, it was late in the game when they really kind of opened
Mm-hmm.
it up a little bit. So that they weren't super impressive last week. At least I wasn't impressed. I mean, Rutgers is not terrible, but still Rutgers.
I just feel like
Georgia,
it's, yeah, the talking heads are wanting to always argue about it, but it will all work itself out.
right?
Michigan will play Ohio State. Georgia will play probably Alabama. Oregon will play Washington again. Florida State will win all their games because their conference is crap, but the others will all work itself out. So it's like, oh, why is Ohio State first? Well, they beat Penn State. No one else has a win like that except maybe Washington. But
Yeah, yeah. And Ohio State, was already a little higher to start.
yeah.
Um, but it'll definitely, you'll definitely see that. I agree. Florida State will still be one of those question marks because they'll go undefeated, right, in the ACC, and so you'll be putting them up against one team losses, teams with one loss.
Well, watching history though, they'll lose some game that they shouldn't, and then
Yeah, you never know. Uh, so Georgia though, Missouri, they look pretty good against Missouri. I mean, Missouri's a tough team. They're ranked 12th. Georgia wins, not handily, but so that's a big win for Georgia. I think that kind of silences a little bit of the criticism that they haven't played anybody yet.
But it doesn't matter because they're playing Mississippi on Saturday, and that's somebody.
Right. Yeah. This is the big one, right?
I wouldn't take Mississippi lightly at all. They've already beaten LSU. They put up 55 on them. Jackson Dart is a good quarterback, very underrated. They got weapons on offense. I would not take them lightly. And
Yeah.
Kiffin has got a lot to prove.
Well, did you
He's
see
so
that interview?
Yeah, that was hilarious. He's dying. He started like talking about um Saban like kissing McAfee's butt on a show every week.
Right.
It was hilarious. He's into that. That's the funny part. And it is ridiculous too, because you see all these coaches getting on podcasts during the week. It's like,
yeah.
Belichick would have ever done that.
No.
Yeah, let's give the opponent some advantage against us. These old school guys, they would totally not do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't see Josh McDaniels getting on any podcast.
Jesus, dude.
Well, it's funny is you wouldn't expect that out of Nick Saban, though, right? Because he is kind of old school.
Yeah.
He does those Affleck commercials, and
he is kind of a TV personality. I guess
it's a little different because he's won a lot. He's won a lot of national championships. He's getting older, and I think his insight is like help. I mean, I think he wants to share some of this stuff because I think people question, how are you that dominant?
Right.
That many years, that consistent. And I think I like watching him on the interviews, but Lane Kiffin's just kind of poking fun. He does this time. Jimbo Fisher, I think he really gets under Jimbo Fisher's skin. And that's personal. Like that's personal.
Well, there was a stat I saw, and it's Jimbo Fisher has the same record as Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M. But they ran someone out.
Right.
Exactly. And of course, I forgot who's the loudmouth of the South. Is it Jimbo Fisher or Debo Sweeney? Like
Dabo? Probably Dabo.
Dabo's the loudmouth of the South. That dude went off this last week on that reporter or something. Like he just totally lost it. He's like,
no, it was some guy, right? It was like Tyler from Spartansburg or something. It was like a caller.
Yeah.
He went off on a caller. It's like, Devil.
Yeah.
Expect you're 4-4. You're Clemson. You're 4-4. Don't you think people are going to have some questions? Like,
well, and then they go beat Notre Dame though. So
why are you getting paid? Like, you're like one of the top paid coaches in college football. And once you got paid, you've sucked. Like, you have not been good ever since you got paid. There are questions. Everyone's going to question that. And he got pissed. He took offense to it, which was hilarious.
Yeah, you don't belong on that show, or you don't belong coaching if you can't take the criticism.
Exactly. Why do it? It's like, but a lot of those coaches, they do those shit. That's understandable. But if you can't take the criticism, don't do it.
Go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, well, he probably used that to his advantage because look, he probably went back to the team and go, "Oh, Tyler from Spartansburg's talking trash about our team," and then they go out and beat Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah. If I had money, I would have picked Clemson anyways because it's Notre Dame. I mean, a team that can't score. Clemson scores a little bit better. They have just as good as athletes. I mean, that was a pick'em game to me. I mean, Clemson played good, but okay, now you're 5-4. Congratulations. Welcome to the Whit Bowl.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed with Notre Dame in particular. I think they probably are not a top 25 team at this point.
Sam Hartman's a nice quarterback. He'll be a good third string quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing is when you look at Notre Dame, come on, this is Notre Dame, dude. This is Joe Montana. This is like the Rocket Ismail. Where are your skill guys? It's the same. It's Penn State. It's the same thing. There's no skill on the field. There's no speed. There's no electric plays. It's just this boring offense where they throw like 5-6 yard passes, and they hope their tight ends can run 4.40s. They're not that fast.
Well, we got to realize though too, with Notre Dame, they have the same, almost closely to the same requirements as Stanford for GPA and everything to get in.
And that's
back in the day, they had Randy Moss on their team, but he couldn't.
Yeah,
he couldn't get by with his GPA.
Well, I'm sure they could figure it out, and they should have already figured it out when they lost Randy Moss. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Notre Dame having Randy Moss.
Well, Florida State lost him too.
Yeah, I think he had some problems in Florida State, though, right? It wasn't just academics; it was like off the field things,
discipline problems, and stuff like off field problems.
But you would think that, I mean, I guess who knows? Maybe Notre Dame actually has some moral standards, right? You'd think with a religious school, but
well, it would have been still Lou Holtz then, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like you would think they would figure out a way to have star players have good grade point averages.
I mean, back then though, they had the Rocket and and
yeah,
they were having good skill players.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's kind of move through these games again. Washington, Washington USC. Did you guys see that game? That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of as expected, I think. Washington wins in a shootout. Neither of them have played particularly great on defense recently.
Right.
And then let's see, Oregon, obviously, they just blew through Cal. That was a beat down. Texas, Kansas State, we talked about that, last podcast, that being a good game, and that really came down to the end. Yeah. I was a little bit surprised at the Alabama LSU game. How, I guess, near the end of the second half, Alabama just kind of pulled away.
Over. Yeah.
And it just shows what a machine Alabama still is.
Right.
Maybe they're struggling at the quarterback position. They're trying to get everything locked in, but just top to bottom, I mean, they just still have so much talent, so much 4-star players that it's like, okay, LSU might have the stud quarterback, and Heisman Trophy guy, but it doesn't matter. We'll beat you every other position.
Well, the Alabama quarterback had 155 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
he had a breakout.
Well, so did Daniels too, right?
Yeah, Daniels at 163 yards rushing, but he only had 1 touchdown.
It was so weird to watch. I didn't get to watch all the game, but I kept, most of those parts I did watch. It's like the quarterbacks are just running back and forth. I was like, what's happening? You guys have no running backs or something?
Well, the Milroy had 0 touchdowns passing, but
right. Oklahoma State, that was definitely a game where I thought Oklahoma State could win, and they did, and Gordon ran the ball well. Oklahoma, that's a big couple of losses for them.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah, that's how quickly you're like in it and out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, Oklahoma's right there. You can talk about them going to the playoff. You're talking about them potentially win a national championship. And then, Ole Miss Texas A&M game was good. And I think, like Wes was talking about earlier, Ole Miss is a scoring machine. And that's going to be tough, coming into this week's games for Georgia. And then the other game is Arizona again. Arizona beats another top 25 team, right? And down's a pretty good UCLA team, and so Arizona's been that team in the Pac-12 that you just don't want to play,
especially at home.
Yeah. So a lot of good games last week, but coming into this week, we're getting closer to the end. And of course, you have the big game, Michigan, Penn State, right? Can Penn State really stick around with Michigan, without any skill player. I mean, Penn State to me just is, like Wes says, boring to watch. Like you're just like, it's painful to like. How do you have zero athletes on offense?
And just the play calling and just the archaic play calling of the whole thing. It's just like it was bad, but maybe they like I think Oregon does this pretty well. It's like, all right, maybe we're stalling somewhere on offense. Let's just let's bring in a let's bring in a true freshman. Bring in someone that hasn't played. They probably got some speed on the bench. They just, they could do that. But yeah. I don't
Well,
know.
and then take into effect what's going to happen.
But
I'm sorry, Wes.
yeah, I still think Michigan wins that game. But
Well, I was going to say
Yeah.
outside interference. We don't know with Michigan now. Everything is going against Michigan.
Yeah.
Harbaugh even a coach? Well, he's going to coach this week, but
Well, I've heard that Harbaugh's actually not getting implicated in any of it.
They're talking to him for sure. People want to tie him to it, but I don't think the NCAA wants to. But I think they're facing pressure. It's basically like that. How could he not know thing?
Right. It's like the was it Rick Pitino, right?
But yeah, I mean, you're guilty by association, and so I think that's the big thing with them. I thought it was pretty bold though of them to come out, Michigan to come out and say, "Look, you're setting a dangerous precedent if you, you know,
Well,
suspend."
they called out Ohio State, Rutgers, and someone else about uh, collaborating together for put a game plan against Michigan.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it's not right. Obviously, like you should be watching film and doing all that. It's not a lot different than watching film, except, you're using these signs that they're using, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, right? For me, I'm like, look, you don't want people to steal your signs, stop using them.
well,
Right.
it's been going on for a while.
Well, there's tons of coaches or GM like are like, why is this a big deal?
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That's
it's
because
not.
Michigan's
That's
good.
right. I don't think it is because look, I mean, we play football, but in the NFL, they don't throw up a bunch of signs. We call plays, make people learn a playbook, and send in the signals. You
Well, and
know,
that's the thing is, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Danny Cannell. It's like, why don't college quarterbacks get headsets in their
right?
helmets like they do in pros? Right?
Makes no sense.
It's like, why not? I'll just get. And he's like, maybe this will set it where we can finally get to that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Here, I got something that will blow your mind here. The number sixth ranked scoring offense in college is Penn State.
Wow.
40.2 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's their only tough game has really been Ohio State, right? I mean,
Right.
they put up 63 points on Massachusetts and 63 points on Delaware. I mean,
Well, Michigan is fifth. They're both about 40 points a game, but they're
right,
first and third in allowed.
right.
Michigan allows 6.7 points per game, and Penn State 12 points a game. That's crazy. So Michigan averages less than a touchdown a game, giving up.
Right, because are they still ranked number one? Because they were number one in
Yeah,
points allowed, so they're still at one.
they're one at points allowed. Yeah, and
Yeah,
number one in yards allowed too. Penn State is number two in yards allowed. Where Penn State gets it is they have a plus 16 turnover difference. So they're number one there.
right. And their defense is definitely solid. Like you saw that in the Ohio State game. Their
Right.
defense isn't what lost them that game. ultimately it was just poor offensive play, and their defense just couldn't
Right.
hold out long enough. So I don't know. For me, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't think enough of Ohio State's offense because I feel like Michigan will score more points and Penn State will have a harder time keeping up. But that's just kind of the way I see the game going.
Right.
But it should be fun to watch. So it's super early though, so that sucks. But
And 9 o'clock.
that's the one to get up and watch though, right?
Right.
Um,
At least it's not in Germany, and then it's 6:30 in the morning.
right in the NFL. Uh, Washington at Utah. So this is really interesting because I mean I guess it doesn't matter too much. Washington, Oregon, if they're still probably going to play in
But
the
it's
in the
it's it's in
Pac-12.
Washington.
Yeah, which Utah, they're way much better at home for sure.
Yeah.
Does Utah have a chance in this game? I feel like
Yeah.
their defense is pretty solid.
Well, what we've seen out of Washington is they could lose to Utah. But do they have enough offense? Does Utah have enough offense to beat Washington? That's the key. And being on the road is always, they're a lot better at home too. I mean, if Cam Rising was playing, then I would have a totally different opinion on this. But
Yeah, they'd probably be in a different position, obviously.
yeah,
Um, although Oregon like really handled them.
yeah. Well, in Oregon State, I mean, score wise didn't show, but they handled them too, like physically handled them.
Yeah, who do you think wins that game, Wes?
I think Washington still wins it. I mean, they're playing at home. I mean, they have to win that game. It's ridiculous if Oregon just put the beat down on Utah. It's Washington. Yeah, Washington has to win that game. I'm not saying they're just gonna beat them down like Oregon did, but you're playing at home. Figure it out. You
Right.
should win that game. You got the crowd. You got in Utah. They don't have their starter. Cam Wright is not coming back, and they were exposed. What they were exposed against Oregon. That is not the same type of player Cam Rising is. So Washington should take that game.
And then, to be fair, Washington's schedule is brutal.
Oh, it's going to get brutal.
Yeah, because they got Utah, then they got Oregon State, then they got
Right.
Washington State, and then they probably have Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah. And they come obviously USC coming off. I mean, it's not an easy game, right? So you're coming off of
Right.
USC. You finish with USC, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State. And for me, Washington State, it doesn't matter how, unless they're real bad, right? They're always going to come to play against Washington. And so
Oh,
that
especially since it's probably the last Apple Cup.
right, last Apple Cup ever, and Washington State's got a good team this year, so that's a dangerous game for them too. It's kind of like when Oregon plays Oregon State. It's the same thing. Even when Oregon State's not great, like they never want to play them, right? Because they're always going to come to play.
But that's where
So
Oregon has it easy because what they played Cal, then they have USC, which might be a little tough, but then they got Arizona State and then Oregon State. So they don't have that gauntlet that Washington has.
They don't, and they should beat USC, even though it is Caleb Williams. They can put up a lot of points, but your defense is a lot better than their defense. You should get stops where they're not going
right,
to get stops. And you're playing at home, you should win that game. So
yeah, I think that's the advantage. But Oregon always, not always, but a lot of times finds a way to shoot themselves in the foot.
they
Well,
do.
I'm waiting for Oregon State. That's the game where they shoot themselves in the foot.
I mean, I could see this one do it. I mean, you think about, I don't know if you seen a lot of the media on Caleb Williams after the Washington loss and really invasive people. Like, I think it's kind of crappy to sit there and, make fun of him for crying in the stands. but he may come out with a little bit of fire in his
Yeah.
belly from this all this social media stuff, about how he's not strong enough for the NFL. He's crying in his mommy's arms. It's like, come on, man. Like, but that might fuel him a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't really want to poke the bear here. I mean, they got skill guys all. Oh yeah, Zach Bryant
Yeah.
was ridiculous. Zach Bryant, Rams go off for 3 touchdowns against Oregon, and then what do you do then? Oregon doesn't
Right.
have doesn't have that type of player.
They got they got a track team. Mario Williams is
Yeah.
like a 4-1 guy. You got Branch, you've got Rice, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, when we were talking about Rice, oh yeah, he's pretty good compared to the
Yeah.
other. That's just stupid. Like it's ridiculous. And I still can't believe USC's defense can't figure out a defense at all. Like something just to hold teams like under 35.
Right.
That they're smoking everybody.
Well, there's also Taj Washington too. He's their leading receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, Washington, he's pretty nice, actually. But so's Williams. I think Williams and didn't him and Caleb play together at Oklahoma?
I think, yeah. Trying to get him up. He did
I thought I,
transfer.
I thought he transferred over from Oklahoma with Caleb.
Yeah.
So they kind of have a connection.
Yep, he came from Oklahoma.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think, this is like the perfect opportunity for Oregon to shoot themselves in the foot,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I mean, because you go in, you lose the Oregon State game. Let's say Oregon State wins out to the Civil War, right? So if Oregon State wins out the Civil War, Oregon obviously, wins out the Civil War, and then you lose to Oregon State. Yeah, that's a killer, but at the same time, like Oregon State's a good football team, right? With a
Right.
good record, and they're playing strong, especially if they finish out with all their wins. But you lose to USC right now, who's downtrending, dropped out of the top 25. Obviously, their season is over when it comes to winning a championship. You know, this to me is more of a big shoot yourself in the foot than losing to a really good Oregon State team.
Well, and then wouldn't it be fitting for the Pac-12 to not have a representative in the
Oh
Final
God,
Four in
that'd
their
be so
last year
bad.
because the two, like Washington and Oregon, choke at the end of the year, right?
Right? Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. It really
Because
wouldn't
if
surprise me.
Oregon loses to USC, they got 2 losses, right? And then
Yeah.
but they still make it to and then they beat Washington, let's say. Then Washington's not going to make it over like a 1-loss Texas
Or Alabama, or
right.
or Georgia, like depending on how that goes down, right?
Or
What if
Michigan or Ohio State.
right? Or an undefeated Florida State, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the game of the week, though, when you kind of look at it, I think Michigan Penn State's a huge game, but this Georgia Ole Miss game, like you got to look at that as like this is important. This is a big game because let's say Georgia loses this game, right, and then they end up losing to Alabama in the SEC championship. Now where's Georgia, right?
Well, they're out, obviously.
Yeah, so this is a big game for them. Just looking at, statistically, Mississippi, yeah, they score a lot of points. They got a lot of good talent on the offensive side of the ball for sure. So I guess this really tests Georgia's defense here.
Let's see who did the.
I mean, they put up 55 on LSU as well. So I mean, they lost to Alabama. They didn't score a lot, so that was their only loss of the year. But what's funny is when Lane Kiffin, he's out there, he's basically saying, "Hey guys, this is our championship, right? We got nothing to lose here,
Yeah. Because
but
they
everything to
win the
gain,
West, basically, unless the Alabama loses.
right?"
Alabama's got to lose like Auburn or Tennessee, which that's probably not going to happen. So
Yeah, so I think this is kind of a statement game for them, right? As a team.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
and
might
then
be a
that,
statement game for Georgia, though. They might come out and
right.
demolish them and show, hey,
Yeah.
your fancy little offense can't match with our defense.
Yeah. I mean, like again, top to bottom, they got the best team. It's just, can Lane Kiffin draw it up to the point where he calls a perfect game? Because he's going to have to probably call a perfect game.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at this is an offense versus defense, right? This is really the game within the game. I think is that it's how well Old Miss's offense plays and how well Georgia's defense plays. Obviously Old Miss, they're probably not going to stop Georgia a bunch. Their defense isn't great. It's not terrible. And Georgia's offense they're not world beaters, but can the defense slow Ole Miss down, or can Ole Miss score enough to win the game?
Well, the Georgia defense is seventh in points allowed and ninth in yards allowed. And they also are 10th in points per game. Mississippi is 14th in points per game. So they actually score less than Georgia. But they're the 61st off our defense in yards allowed and the 45th in points allowed.
Right. Yeah, I even against a poor defense, I think Mississippi could still outscore Georgia. That's what they're going to have to do.
Well, and it's weird to say because we're talking Lane Kiffin, but they're actually, well, they're about the same. Um, their passing yards they're 14th in the nation. Georgia's got the sixth best passing yardage in the nation. They're averaging 326 yards passing, which is crazy to think with a new quarterback that they're doing that. So we'll see.
Well,
I mean, it also
back,
comes down to, like you said, who was Georgia playing where they racked up all these points. So who
yeah, I mean,
knows?
it always, yeah, that's the tough thing with college football. When you like, if you look at just statistics across the board, it's not. I feel like in the NFL, it means a lot more when you talk about specific statistics, just because every team in the NFL is generally they're still an NFL team. Where it's like some of these teams you're playing in college, it's like, yeah, Delaware is really going to put up a tough fight, right? So those are some of those games that you never know about. But I think that's a big game, obviously, but that should be good to watch. And then, you talk about Tennessee, Missouri. I mean, Tennessee could get a little momentum there going into playing Alabama. They win here, they're already 13th. Maybe they're close to a top 10 team by the time they play Alabama.
Does Tennessee already have they have at least two losses, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. It's not Tennessee like that they're going to win anything, but they could really ruin Alabama's season.
I don't trust any team that loses to Florida this year. Florida's garbage.
Yeah.
They they beat Tennessee, and it wasn't even really they kind of handled Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't Tennessee's not hasn't been super consistent, but that Florida game was big, but they did lose to Alabama too. Yeah, they didn't play great against Kentucky, but that's still another good game, 13. So there's a lot of good games this weekend. So a lot of college football updates, but man, this should be a pretty good week for college football. So any upsets? You guys got any upsets for this week?
All right.
I don't really see that I would call an upset. Like, yeah.
Miami upsetting Florida State.
You can't just like guess one. Like
I'm going to say that one.
you really gotta think it's gonna happen.
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. It's in Florida State. That's tough, but I guess they're
Yeah,
both in
I
the
mean, Miami, Florida
Wide left. Wide left.
wide left. Florida State misses
You
wide
just
left.
don't ever see. That's the thing with Florida State. Are they really that good, or do they not play very good teams? Which
Yeah,
means once in a while you're going to come up and you're just going to outlay an egg.
yeah. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Big Smooth calling it out. He's got Miami winning the game.
Now watch Florida State win by 70 or something.
Right. They'll be like, no, listen to that guy ever again. All right. Well, let's jump into to NFL, get into our picks this week and let's see. So last week, Derek led the way at 10-4. Wes, we were both 9-5. Another just one of those weeks where, I feel like there's some games that let's go back and pull up these games. Oh yeah, it's like that Houston game. It looks like Tampa Bay's about to win, and Houston still comes back, wins at the end.
I told Wes this. It's like I was looking at my thing and I'm like, sweet, dude, I'm going in. It looks like all I've got is the Dolphins Chiefs loss, and I'm going to go in only with one loss going in the afternoon because I'm like, okay, the Patriots are driving. They'll do something. They'll score. Mac Jones throws interception, lose there. I'm like, really? Then I'm like, okay. Falcons, Vikings. I'm like, there's no way, Josh Dobbs is going to take him. No, I'll lose that one at the end too. And then I'm like, okay, Baker just scored with 40 seconds left. No way Houston's going to go. And I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? From one loss to four losses within like 2 minute span.
Yeah, that was rough. The Houston one's really tough because they needed a touchdown. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like go and get a field goal to win. And boy, I mean, Stroud obviously statistically, when you look at that, it's amazing, right? Rookie record, 470 yards, but the throws he was making were more impressive to me than the numbers. There's a couple throws, especially there at the end throughout that game, where you looked at me like, this isn't what I thought CJ Stroud was, but he looked like a pocket passer that I just never seen in him before.
Hindsight here, though, Steve, would you have not traded back and got DJ Moore if you realized how good CJ Stroud was, or would you still do what the Bears did?
I'd definitely still do what the Bears did. I mean, obviously, it'd be great to have CJ Stroud, but in the position I was in, even if you still have to do that because
You didn't know what if, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you still got Justin Fields, right? And then if for some reason you decide at the end of this year he's not your guy, you still got top five picks, right? So go out and get another quarterback if that's what you want to do. Like you had to do what they did in that scenario, I think. I mean, but yeah, I mean, having CJ Stroud playing like he's playing, I think anybody would be ecstatic to have him.
Oh, the Panthers, right? They traded away DJ
Oh,
Moore and two top picks.
oh man, how bad does that look right now? I mean, could you have drafted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young? I mean, just at the beginning of the season, right? Before obviously you don't know how they played. Like, was that possible for them to say no? We want Stroud instead.
Well, yeah, because I think it was like lots of people were talking like, is it Young? Is it Stroud? Is it Richard? There was a lot of talk of like, what do you want? Because they were like, Young was supposed to be the most pro ready. Richardson was the most talented, and then CJ Stroud might have had the higher ceiling. So they thought they went with the safe bet, which still
Yeah,
might be because it's not like, okay, I'm sorry, Panthers, you traded away your best wide receiver. Now you're looking to get a good wide receiver, but you'd have no first.
yeah.
when is organizations going to learn? It doesn't matter if you have a quarterback if you have nothing around that quarterback. Like history shows how many top draft picks at quarterback have been duds because like Tim Couch or David Carr or like all those guys that go into these barren franchises and get murdered. And then they're like, oh, well, we just picked the. I'm like, no, you didn't give them anything to help them out.
Yeah. And you create a lot of self-doubt, in these quarterbacks that you pick them first, they have nothing around them. Then you want to start them day one. That's why back in the day they used to, kind of break a guy in, take a year or two, because there's a lot of bad memories quarterbacks have early in their career, and sometimes you can't get those. They can't get past those things that happened to them in their first, second year. So,
well, yeah, look at Peyton Manning and Troy Aikman when they started as rookies. If we just took that 1 year, they'd be like, "Oh, those guys suck."
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Um, yeah, it's a mess. And now they're talking about, is Frank Reich going to survive? It's like, how many more coaches are you going to go through?
I think he's a good coach. I think they should let him give him a little bit of room to continue to try to rebuild a little bit.
Well, who is their? I don't even know do they have a number one receiver? Who is their number one receiver?
Oh, they got what's his name from Minnesota. Who's
Adam
playing
Thielen?
well. Yeah,
Yeah, but he's like 100.
yeah. I mean, he's definitely up there, but he was playing really well at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Thielen was playing good, but that's still he's like more of a number two, a number three. I mean, now he's
Right,
like
right,
because he's gotten older.
Right.
well,
He's always been a good number two possession receiver, gets lots of
yeah,
receptions. You can't count on him to.
No, he's not going to stretch the field.
right. But then also, it's like you go out and you get signed DJ Chark, and you're really not using him. I don't know if I haven't watched him too much. I don't know if he's
He's
had
hurt
injury
right now.
problems. Yeah, maybe. I mean, and then the other problem is like, I know Miles Sanders has had injury problems, but like you're not really using him in his best. You got to get him out of the backfield and throwing him the ball.
Well, they paid
And
him enough.
yeah, but yeah, they don't have great receivers, that's for sure when you look at their team. But they brought in Hayden Hurst, good tight end, who hasn't done anything this year. Um, I think they got a decent running back combo in Sanders and Hubbard.
Yeah.
And then Chenault Jr., that's I remember thinking, man, he's going to be a really good wide receiver when he came out.
Nope.
But gosh, he just didn't do anything.
Well, he was
He's
supposed to be like the Percy Harvin or what's the guy from that's on Kansas City? Kadarius Tony, you know what I mean? He was supposed to be the
right.
jack of all trades, reverses and get him the ball in open space. And yeah, it's kind of like nothing.
Yeah, he was so fast, and he just looked so quick off the ball. Yeah, it was just that he's a little disappointing there. But yeah, we'll see what happens in Carolina. I think that, what Wes was talking about, that's what Justin Fields is going through. A lot of people talk about, oh, he's holding the ball too long, or he's the one getting sacked. But think about all the times he got sacked when he first started. Like he was getting murdered. And I'm sure that's in his head, like all the time. Every time he gets a snap, he's like, "Am I going to get sacked again?" So that I'm sure that's in his head. So maybe, yeah, maybe that's a tough thing for him to get over.
Well, that's what happens. A lot of those quarterbacks in their early in their career, if they get sacked a lot, then they get really gun shy.
Yeah,
But he shouldn't have it available because he could be like, screw it, I'm out, and then run.
yeah. Well, and I think they tried to limit him on that, and they really want to admit that they were like, hey, stay in the pocket, throw the ball, and he complained about it without actually saying it.
Right.
and people didn't pick up on it. People are like, oh, he just doesn't have the mental aptitude to play quarterback. And what he's really trying to say is, no, they're kind of hamstringing me.
Right. Well, I kind of figured that wasn't he was just talking trash about his OC not letting him play the way he wants to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. He's an MVP. They still let him run the ball.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens when he comes back. He's not. I mean, I think Badgett's going again this week, so we'll see what happens with that.
Who is Bears boards? Have they talked about Banjan still being great and Field sucks?
Oh, it's always back and forth with that. There's definitely a lot of Fields haters in the Chicago fan land, which I don't get. It's like, you know, stick with your guy. It's your quarterback, but obviously there's a lot of people that aren't happy with him. But to compare Badgett and think Badgett is good and is going to be some kind of starting quarterback in the NFL, like that's just wrong. Like he'll be a good backup for his career. Be a great guy to have on your bench.
Well, Exhibit A was last week. I mean, that was pretty brutal.
Yeah. Well, but he's still, it's only his, second game. So it's not like he's got a ton of experience. I mean, that you're going to be prone to being rattled. Let's see. So, yeah, you talked about the Minnesota comeback, the Washington win, the Houston win, um, Kansas City, Miami. That was kind of a
Tua
surprise.
dropping the snap.
Yeah, but it was just I thought Miami would play better. But I mean, does this fuel the fire of Miami struggling in the big games?
I still, it's somebody always plays bad when they're in Europe, right? Have we seen a game in Europe where both teams looked really good?
Yeah, you think it's something to do with the traveling and just that being out of the
Playing Egypt. I mean, going to. I mean, for God's sakes, like Kansas City's got to go all the way to freaking Berlin.
Well, they actually wanted it because they didn't want Tyreek Hill having a homecoming in Kansas City.
Oh, interesting.
So they said, yeah, they volunteered it.
I just and yeah, so and maybe we could talk how it affects that play, being overseas or playing, in Germany or UK or whatever, but Miami just didn't play that great. I mean, they only scored 14 points against what I would say is not the greatest Kansas City defense. They're not bad. It's not like it's a horrible defense, but they're not like top, as far as
Kansas
athletes
City's
go.
offense only scored 14 points.
Right. Against Miami's defense, which is not great either.
No.
But that was disappointing. I mean, I thought Miami would win that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty pissed. I was like, I'm up at 6. All right, I'm at 6:30. I'm like, I'm to watch this game. I was so pissed.
I bet.
The Tua snap. I was of course I was at the golf course. There was like 50 people there. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like the whole place just looked at me. I'm like, oh, we're a Dolphins fan. Okay. I try to be a fan and look what happens. That was just pathetic. I was like, what? Fourth down?
Right.
That happened on fourth down. Come on.
So anticlimactic.
Right. That's the worst part, right?
I think the Chiefs has surpassed the Broncos as my least favorite team. Actually, they're just blowing past them. I like Mahomes. I like watching Mahomes. The rest of the team, I could care less about. Andy Reid's a cool guy. I don't even see him. I just see the noise, everything.
Be careful, Wes. We don't want to get canceled here. Because the Swifties will come for you, Wes.
Yeah, watch out. Oh,
They
the
will be
world, the
watching
world of
more.
Swifties. The world of Swifties, dude.
I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. No. It doesn't have to do with Taylor Swift. I don't care about
Yeah.
Swift.
You said you don't.
It's more.
The
It's
only
more Travis Kelce. Like, how many more commercials does a dude have to do?
Oh my gosh.
hey, Wes, he's won how many Super Bowls?
I don't.
Two, right?
He can do as many commercials as he wants per your rules on NFL players doing commercials. He's won Super Bowls.
Yeah, like one or two. I get it. Three, not
He's
like
won 2 Super
seven.
Bowls, and he's still what?
Seven.
Almost one of the top
And he's a
5 greatest
tight
tight
end. He's
ends of
not a
all time.
quarterback. I understand a quarterback. I understand Peyton Manning. Fine. Okay, you could do your commercials now. You won a Super Bowl. He's not a quarterback. He's a tight end. Not even a wide receiver. He's a tight end.
He's
But
an
he's one of the
image guy.
greatest tight ends of all time already, right?
Of course. But nobody cares about tight ends.
He's
That's
not
true.
Baker Mayfield going out doing a bunch of commercials. Is not Trevor Lawrence. You know, he's won 2 Super Bowls, and he's got the Swifty Nation of
Yeah,
of course he's going to get as many commercials.
Yeah,
as he
he'll have
wants.
it for another couple weeks.
yeah. Until she has to write a new breakup song.
I don't know, because he's got, he's part of the Swifty Nation. So,
Yeah.
Oh God.
and his
No.
brother is up for sexiest man of the year.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
What world are we living in? Here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna break up. Taylor Swift's gonna write a #1 hit breakup song. Travis Kelce's gonna quit football and follow her around.
No, the worst is when it pops, ESPN pops up on your phone, like, all right, get some football news. And it's about Travis Kelce choking up when he's asked about their relationship on
Right.
an interview. I'm like, I wanted to punt my phone. I wanted to punt it.
What are you talking? The dude knows how to play the game.
No,
I'm
I mean,
talking
look,
about
he's
the game. I'm talking
yeah.
about noise. I love his game. We're not talking about that. But my top story on sports is Travis Kelce choking up, talking about Taylor Swift's relation. I mean, come on, dude.
Well, we could, him and his brother have a podcast. They probably.
Oh, I know that. Their podcast is pretty good.
It
Oh, yeah.
is.
It's actually pretty
Have
good.
you seen? They did a one where it was like they showed all the coaches after the coaches meet, like
Yeah.
and Travis is like, I don't know, I can't know any of these guys, and he's like going through them all, and it goes to Josh McDaniels, and he goes, "Who the f is that?"
No, it's so when you say play the game, you're talking about the image game that he plays really
Oh
well, and
yeah,
he does. You look at it's not it's the podcast, it's the getting out in the public spotlight because he's done TV shows. He did that, um, wasn't it like the To Date Travis Kelce show? I don't know if you guys remember that, but he's trying to get into acting. He's
chunky
got his
soup, and
he's got chunky. Yeah, he's getting all these commercials going, and he's really trying to be an image guy and get his name out there. And but I also agree with Wes at the same time. It's like I don't want to hear about him and Taylor Swift's relationship on my ESPN app.
the problem
So
is the ratings are
oh yeah, of course it
Well,
is.
everything's ratings driven, and it
that's
gets
the
ratings.
conundrum is the ratings are off the charts now. And
Look, and
NFL looks at this like, oh,
of course, dude, 90%
let's milk this like the biggest cow on earth, right?
right, dude.
And that's what they're doing. I kind of get it, but it gets a little annoying. Like,
Dude, none of those Taylor Swift fans would ever watch football ever.
well,
Most of them, 90% of them would never watch football until now. So you're bringing in a whole new clientele. That's why the ratings are up, right? Because you're getting so many more viewers. Because these people, they're no, most of them would not watch football. They're just not into that same thing for most of them. And so that is a huge
and then
bump.
his like merchandise skyrocketed.
Mhm.
it's like the teenage girls, like they're not really watching the game. They're taking selfies of them watching like it's all behind.
Look, I'm watching the Kansas City game. Watching Taylor's man. That's how those go. So, all right, well, let's get into this week's picks. See how we do. So, we're not a bad week last week, but let's jump into it. So, Derek gained back a game there. So, I'm really falling behind. I need a big week here. So, see if we get any swing games. All right. Well, let's start it off. Thursday night game. I mean, I don't know who scheduled this game, but that person should be fired.
Tank Bull too, man. Tank Bull too.
I know, man.
This is bad.
This is your Thursday night game, and great. It's great for me because I get to watch the Bears. Because I don't get to watch them very often unless I go somewhere.
And you win either way.
Right. Yeah. So I'll lead it off here. I'm taking Chicago in this game. I just don't think. I mean, even with Badgett playing, I just don't think Carolina is great either. It really could go either way, but it's at Chicago, so I'm taking Chicago at home. I don't know any other way to determine the winner of this game in a close game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears too. Spread is 3.5. I got them winning by 3. This is the game. This is a big game for Montez Sweat because he got paid a lot of money. They
Right.
gave up that second round pick, how they love to do that. And then we come out that Roquan Smith came out this week and was like, I was so depressed. I'm thankful I'm out of that place because I thought I was, my career was going to go down the tubes being there. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So the Bears, it's a good, I'm going to want to see some fire out of the Bears. I think they can do it here. Rookie quarterback. I guess it's rookie on rookie, but it's at home. So going with the Bears.
What you got, Wes?
I'm going with the Bears just because Carolina is atrocious. Like just epically bad how Carolina is. But it's amazing me they beat Houston. But again, they only scored 15 points and beat Houston. So yeah, I'm taking the Bears by 6.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Bryce Young won the rookie quarterback battle.
Yeah.
The only game they won is against CJ Stroud's Texans. That's funny. Let's see, Indianapolis at New England.
No, it's in Berlin.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. It is in another Berlin game. So what do you got there, Derek? Knowing what
Berlin
we
games
know.
can go either way, but since Mac Jones screwed me last week, I'm taking the Colts here. They're favored by 1.5, and I just can't trust the Patriots at all. So I'm going to take the Colts by 3.
Wes, what do you got?
I'll probably never pick Mac Jones again because he won't be in the league that long. So yeah, I'm taking the Colts. 4 points.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly the talking heads change their tune back and forth, right? Oh, Mac Jones, he's good. He's good. Now all of a sudden, Mac Jones is bad again.
Yeah.
It's funny to listen to these guys on these analysts. Where I always knew Mac Jones is not good.
Yeah, I consistently have stated maybe too harshly he's just not that good, and I'm being nice when I say not that good.
But we'll see what happens with him. I mean, he may get to stick around for a little bit. Of course, I think Indianapolis is actually playing decent football right now, so I think that's the benefit.
Ball,
Yeah, I think they're playing well, and so
4
I think
and
they
5.
do.
I mean, shit.
It's they've been not super consistent, but they're playing decent, right? And I just think that that's the team you're going to take in this game. So I got to go with Indianapolis. I got them by 6. Houston at Cincinnati. Wes, lead us off.
I'm taking Cincinnati, but I think it's going to be a good game. I think both quarterbacks are going to go at it. Not as high scoring as Texans last game, but give the edge to Burrow. It's Joey B. Take it 31-27.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how CJ Stroud comes off of this last game, right? I mean, does he come out and have another big game? Does he come out and have a bad game, or does he just play mediocre? That's it's interesting whenever somebody has a breakout like that to see how their next game goes. However, even if Houston plays well, I think Cincinnati is back on a roll again, and they're a tough team to beat when they're rolling. And at home, I don't see Houston being able to win this game. I actually got Cincinnati by 10 here.
Yeah, the spread is 6.5, and like I already said, the Bengals are rolling. They're back. The Texans are too young of a team to handle the Bengals right now. So yeah, I'm taking the Bengals by 7. Could be a lot more though.
Yeah, we'll see. Like if Houston plays well, I think they'll keep the game close, but they have to play well. If they play average, they struggle. So Houston has to play well just to be in the game, or it could get ugly. Let's see. New Orleans at Minnesota. Um, New Orleans just, I don't know if I can trust them. I can't trust them. But Minnesota, I mean, it seems like you can't bet on them. But of course, then they won last week. So I still have to go with New Orleans here, I think, even though it's on the road. I think New Orleans is more of a complete team. And Minnesota obviously has big injuries that they're dealing with. So I'm going to take New Orleans, but in a close game. I think New Orleans by a field goal.
Yeah, the Saints are favored by 2.5 on the road. I'm going to agree with you and have the Saints by a field goal. Josh Dobbs is a nice story, but this week their game plan is against him. Where last week he came in and took over for Jaron Hall, two totally different quarterbacks. So the game plan wasn't the same. What they weren't probably ready for it. We're like, oh, Josh Dobbs, they've had him for 4 days. He's not going to play, right? The whole week the Saints have been game planning for Dobbs, so I'm taking the Saints.
Yeah, he had some big runs, ran for like what 60, 70 yards last week. And the Saints obviously have got the plan for that. What do you got, Wes?
I'm taking the Saints too. Is I think the Saints have underperformed the whole year, but they have more talent on offense. They should win the game. I'm taking them by
Right.
5.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. But yeah, Minnesota, it's just they've been weird all year, and so are the Saints to some extent. Like sometimes they look like they're the team you thought they were going to be, and then sometimes they just don't. It's just a little hot and cold. Green Bay at Pittsburgh. Derek, what do you got?
Um, you just have to give it to Mike Tomlin because we your trivia last week, they have the worst offense in the NFL. But guess what? Right now, they're like the 4th seed.
Yeah.
I think they're like the 4th seed in the playoffs for the AFC. That's ridiculous. And it's all because their defense. There's no way I could take the Packers here because they're garbage. And even though
Right.
Kenny Pickett is really bad, that Steelers defense is really good. So I'm taking the Steelers by 3.
Yeah, Wes, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think TJ Watt is gonna wreck Jordan Love. Yeah, Jordan Love's gonna be in a lot of trouble. I mean, their defense is that good. I think turnovers are coming. I did find it interesting that Pickett, Kenny, like leads in like fourth quarter comebacks or something in the last two. Like, it's just dumb. Like, he plays better. He plays like crap the first three quarters, and if he's behind, he actually has some come from behind victories. So yeah, I think I'll take Pittsburgh.
He's the new Tebow, right?
Yeah.
I don't see them being down in this game though. So we'll still see probably a poor performance at a good old Cody Pickett. uh, I just will never call him. I like how Wes didn't call him by his right name, so I'm never going to call him by his right name again.
Wasn't there a Cody Pickett that played for Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? My niece, they're friends with him.
He
Yeah.
made it to he was like a backup
Yeah.
in the NFL for a few years.
I forgot
But
it was Cody.
think about it. You have Deontay Johnson and Bruce Pickens, or is it Bruce Pickens?
No, it's,
No.
uh, why did I just lose his name? George Pickens.
George Pickens. And Pickens had like -2 yards last week.
Yeah, and well, and now he's just going off
Yeah.
on social media, right? Which I don't think that's a good sign for, the mental, the headstrongness, if that's a word, of a player. Um, it's not a good sign for me. I don't like that in a wide receiver.
Well, especially when you win.
Right,
Like Devontae Adams does it, but it's more like we obviously is like, this isn't the way that things are supposed to go. I need to get the ball more, or we need to win, play better and win.
right.
Pickens is more like, well, I didn't get my touches.
Yeah, I don't like that in a player in a especially a wide receiver because wide receiver, yeah, you want to try to get the ball as much as you can, but it's one of those positions where if they're covered, they're covered. Especially when you talk about guys that are getting the double teams and they're getting over and under coverage.
Yeah.
And right now, if I'm playing Pittsburgh up, to this point, like my number one guy I'm covering is Pickens. This Johnson, he struggled. He hadn't had a touchdown in like what, 18 games or something like that,
Yeah,
or 20
he's also been
games.
hurt this year, but
Yeah, but still, it was like went back through all of last year.
right. Well, he put up yardage still, though. He
Yeah,
just didn't have any touchdowns.
yeah, it's tough.
And that was the thing. So Johnson scores his touchdown. Did Pickens go and celebrate with him? No, he went and moped
Right.
him to the bench.
Yeah. It's just not a good look. I'm not. If I'm other teams, I don't want him coming to my team anyway.
So we'll give a second rounder for him because that's what Steelers receivers go for. And then he
Apparently.
goes,
But yeah, I mean, I don't see how Green Bay could win this game. Pittsburgh's defense is solid. Unless Pickett turns the ball over, throw some interceptions because Green Bay, they have potential. And Aaron Jones, when Aaron Jones is healthy and playing well, it's not a guy you want to try to defend because of how versatile he is. That's tough. So still, I got Pittsburgh by a touchdown at least. I'll just give them 7 to start with. Let's see, Tennessee at Tampa. Wes, what do you got?
I got Tennessee, um, just because I think Baker's kind of hit his ceiling here. Um, I think Levis will play, he'll play good enough to beat Tampa Bay, which isn't, you don't have to be that good. So taking Tennessee by 3.
Yeah, I think this is a tough game to pick. I kind of went back and forth a little bit on this one. Tampa's got the advantage being at home. They're not bad, but they're not great. I mean, I think they're overplaying this year than they were obviously expected. Not to be pretty poor, but they've played better than expected. But I like what I saw from Levis, even in last week's loss. He wasn't flashy with his numbers, but you know he definitely fits the position for Tennessee, and I think he could be a good quarterback for them. So I'm going to take Tennessee this week.
Oh man, you're not going to be catching any ground up, Steve, because we're all picking the same games. I got Tennessee also. I think Henry is going to have a big game this game, and I think the Bucks, like you said, have overachieved, and they're going to start coming down to reality now.
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, ultimately, because Tampa has potential when you watch them play, but yeah, the consistency is definitely not there. And they lost to Houston last week.
Last second.
Yeah. So we'll see how the rookie quarterback does this week against them. Let's see. Where are we at here? We're at San Francisco at Jacksonville. This is me. I'm man. This is tough because it's at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's playing well. But I think San Francisco, I mean, I gotta take San Francisco here. You hate to say this because then it happens. Like they can't lose 4 in a row, right? Every week it's like we can't lose 2 in a row, can't lose 3 in a row. And here we are again. But I'm still gonna take San Francisco here. It looks like they're at full strength again, or at least enough, to be considered whole as a team. So I'm going to take San Francisco in a close game. I think Jacksonville plays well, but San Francisco wins in the end. I just got them by 3.
This is a very tough game because they both are coming off of buys. So neither team has an advantage of having the buy and not the other team not. But like you said, it's like San Francisco can't lose 4 in a row, can they?
I think we just gave them their 4th loss.
Yeah. And you went and you traded for Chase Young. You got Bosa and Young now. This is a game where I want to see Purdy make his comeback, or is this like the thing is he not that good of a quarterback?
Right.
I want to see him. He's going to have Debo back. He's got Ayuk. He's got McCaffrey. He's got Kittle. I want to see him have a good game. So I'm going to take the 49ers by 3. But it's tough because, yes, I was wrong. The Steelers are the 5th seed because
Right, the Jags. Yeah. Let's see, Wes, what do you got?
I'm taking the Jaguars here. I think they do lose. 49ers do lose 4. I mean, they got to go out to Jacksonville. I think just because Jacksonville has the advantage there, even though it's Jacksonville and they don't really have a home crowd. But still, I think Jacksonville's playing good on both sides of the ball. Their defense is playing good, and I think it's gonna be real close. But I got Jacksonville by 2.
I could definitely see Jacksonville winning this game. Like that, there's no doubt. But yeah. Gosh, if San Francisco drops 4 in a row, that puts them in a tough position. Because that's as bad as
Well,
that's a losing streak. Like that's bad.
they're going to win their division. I mean, they're pretty sure they're going to win their division anyways, even if they have a bad record. So
Well, I mean, the Seahawks aren't doing themselves any favors.
they just got blitzed. So
Yeah, they did. And of course, Rams and Cardinals are both trash, so it's not like San Francisco has a lot of competition out there.
No.
Oh man, let's see. Derek, you're up here. Let's see. Cleveland at Baltimore. Cleveland at Cleveland.
Right. I'm taking original Cleveland over new Cleveland.
Yeah.
The like you said, the Ravens have destroyed the Lions and the Seahawks. And Browns have the great defense, but their offense is trash. So, and then Myles Garrett went on. I saw on the thing how they asked him, and I know it's messed up that they asked him, but they're like, who are you more afraid of, Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson? And he said Joe Burrow. So that's a little bit of bulletin board material for Lamar.
Yeah.
So I got the Ravens by 10.
Wow, against that defense, huh?
Their
Nice.
offense is humming now.
Yeah. So yeah, Wes.
I'm taking Baltimore too. I think it'll be close though, but you know, defensively, Cleveland's gonna probably prevent Baltimore from just completely blowing them out. So yeah, it's got Baltimore by 7.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna agree with that. Baltimore by 7 is my pick. I just don't know that Cleveland can score enough to win the game. Um, we'll see. I mean, I think is Sean Watson back this week? I think he's back.
Doesn't matter.
So yeah. I don't know that it matters too much. But yeah. I don't see how you can't pick Baltimore because they're rolling, they're at home, so they're playing well. So I gotta go with Baltimore as well. Oh, what happened here? Atlanta at Arizona. I didn't even pick this game. Let's see. Well, I've got to go Atlanta, right? Maybe that's why I didn't pick it. Because I mean, if you're Arizona right here, like you got to tank, right? Like, is it not time to say let's turn it in for the season and take the number one overall pick or number two overall at worst? I just don't think Arizona is going to be much into many games here finishing out. So I'll take Atlanta there.
We got a swing game.
Oh,
I'm taking the Cards because Kyler Murray's back and there's no Modern Warfare out right now.
right.
So Kyler Murray is playing for his job. It's basically the Justin Fields, right? So if Kyler comes out and balls, like 2 years ago, they're going to be like, maybe we should put this draft pick in to help,
Right.
to the rosters. So
Marvin Harrison Jr.
yeah. And they haven't been blown out really. They've
Right.
played tough, and now they got a great threat of a quarterback there now.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Falcons, dude. Arthur Smith should be fired. You
Totally.
don't draft a tight end, a running back, and a receiver in the first 10 picks and don't use any 3 of them. What is
Right.
that? That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He needs to go. I'm sorry. You drafted all those, but you use Algier, John Smith, and freaking Mac Collins. Come on.
It is, and it's not, and then it's like, what's worse than not using them is defending yourself for not using them. Like you're trying to make it make sense, and like people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense, man."
Yeah.
He's like,
Like
oh,
what?
Arthur Smith was such a good coach when he just gave Derrick Henry the ball 50 times as an offensive coordinator. That's
Right.
what he did. Now, come on, dude. Now you won't even use Bijan Robinson or Kyle Pitts.
Right.
That dude. Oh, so sad.
Yeah, all the
They
potential
did
in
to
the
him.
world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Wes, what do you got? Atlanta at Arizona.
Uh, because Derek said that they don't use, their best players or best skill guys. This week they're gonna do it. Bijan. Bijan's gonna have
Bijan,
a game for me.
go 150.
Wes is going to lose his fantasy football this week because he's going to rely on Arthur Smith giving Bijan the ball.
Derek shouldn't have said anything, man. Should just cut it off right there. Picking the cards, done.
What?
They're watching, dude. They're gonna but maybe we should get Bijan Robinson the ball. Maybe we should get Kyle Pitts, who's a beast, the ball. It makes no sense. It's so stupid.
Well, you never know. Who are you taking though?
I took Atlanta.
You're taking Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is a swing game. It's help at least it'll help me gain one back on Derek if we get that one, but we'll see. Let's see. Detroit at the Chargers. Gosh, speaking about another coach that should be fired. What do you got, Derek?
Well, definitely we're not firing our favorite coach because Dan Campbell is the man.
Yeah.
And they're coming off a bye. Chargers play decent against the Jets, but I think the Lions are a more complete team. And it doesn't really matter that the Chargers are at home because they really don't have a home. So I'm taking the Lions by 7.
What do you think, Wes?
Yeah, I take the Lions too, just because of it's they both sides of the ball. Detroit's just better. And even though they're not really playing on the road. They'll probably have more Lions fans there than freaking Chargers fans. So yeah, taking the Lions by 4.
Are we going to see Lions fan there? Is he going to go?
Lions guy.
Lions guy.
Gonna be there with that chick.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm out.
Dude, we got to go see Lions guy. We got to go see
how right. He'd probably never go that.
We might never see him again.
That's what I'm saying. You could probably never see him again, dude. That's so funny. Yeah. The Chargers, they're decent on offense, right? It's their defense hasn't been playing up to what they should be playing. Like their defense should be decent. But they haven't looked very good. And I think that gives Detroit the advantage here, being that Detroit is pretty good on the offensive side. And they're not bad on the defensive side. So even though it's on the road, taking Detroit also, but in a close game, I think they win by a field goal. Oh, here's a game of the week. The Giants at Dallas. Wes, what do you got?
Boy. Do I feel bad for Dayball right now? I kind of do.
Yeah.
Like coach of the year, huh? Talk about a sophomore slump. No, I'm taking the Cowboys big.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be a week 1 repeat, but I don't see it being far from that. Their defense is just going to beat them up bad. And now you got Danny DeVito playing quarterback.
Dude, he's going to get murdered. It's going to be like a Danny DeVito, like the yeah.
This guy, I don't even know this guy's first name. That's the problem here.
It's like Kenny.
And
Kenny DeVito.
That's your starting quarterback, and I don't know his first name.
Cody DeVito.
Yeah. Is it like Tommy DeVito or something?
It's Tommy.
Something like Tom.
But it's Danny until he completes a pass for more than 5 yards.
Right. We keep calling him Danny. Oh, so yeah, I think Dallas beats him up. I got him by at least 14.
Yeah, this is depressing because I got Saquon on my fantasy team, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's not good. This is not good because Danny DeVito, man, I'm sorry, I'd rather start Matt Barkley
Yeah, right.
because
I would
he can't
too.
even throw. What was it against the they lost the Jets game because he had negative passing yards. And in overtime, they were scared to throw the ball over the line of scrimmage
Right.
in overtime. So there's no way I'm taking the Giants here.
Yeah.
The I hate the Cowboys, but they're going to win by 21. It's going to be bad.
It does. It looks like it's going to be bad. So, and typically, sometimes looks can be deceiving, but I just don't know that that's the case here. The Commanders at Seattle. You know, I I think the Seahawks at home have to win this game. The Commanders actually haven't looked terrible this year. I thought last week after their big trades, they would kind of come out flat, and they still won the game. So I think it'll be a tough game, but I still got to think Seattle wins this at home. Seattle plays so good at home, and they can't lose this game. If they lose this game, because I mean here if they win and then San Francisco loses, it's a big game for them. So I got Seattle by a touchdown.
I agree with you. We got Seattle's at home. There's no way the Commanders have a chance, really. The Commanders won last week, but they played the Patriots. And if it wasn't for the receiver for the Patriots tipping the ball in the air and getting intercepted, who knows? Mac Jones might be looking good right now because they might have been down to win the game. I got to go Seahawks. It's at home. And what do the Commanders have on defense now?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah,
still
the guy
got.
that hates being there.
Yeah. What's
They traded
crazy is
everyone but the one that wanted to leave.
that once they had such a good defensive line,
Yeah.
and then you just like no, let's trade them all.
Well, what's
That's
so funny
crazy.
to me is when way back when Gruden traded Mack away, everyone was like, you just don't trade pass rushers away. You can't, then the Commanders trade two away.
Right. Yeah, they broke the cardinal rule twice. What do you got, Wes? Commanders at Seattle.
I got Seattle just because they're playing at home.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, they better play better than they did last week, that's for sure, right? Let's see. Jets at Las Vegas. Derek, you got.
I just have to tell you that last week, leading up to the game, I was actually alive for the first time this season for football. Coming into this year,
Right.
I had no hope, no expectations. I was kind of numb. I was like, oh man, McDaniels is going to stick, and then and then Halloween night, the greatness happened. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited. Then they go and put together a performance they haven't had since ever. Or
Yeah.
see, here's one. Raiders since 2000 with 0 turnovers, 0 sacks allowed, and fewer than 5 penalties. One time, and that was last week.
Well, on top of that, they had like 8 sacks of their own or something like
Yeah, they
that,
had 8
right?
sacks. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going with the Raiders to beat the Jets. Jets have a great defense. Don't get me wrong, great defense. But the only way they win is if the other team turns the ball over, and the Raiders didn't make any mistakes. They had a good game plan. And what was so interesting, because I had to delve into it because I'm all happy now. And Raider content, they were talking to Josh Jacobs, and he went off on about like after they were like, oh, so what? He went to the new OC and he goes, these are the plays I like. So guess what? They listened to him and they let him run those plays. And all of a sudden, Josh Jacobs looked like Josh Jacobs of old.
Right.
The Raiders' offensive line looked like a good offensive line again. Or decent. I'm not going to say, but last year, this year, they've been. The Raiders' running game will help out. The Jets gave up, 7 or 8 sacks last week. Who says they're not going to do that again? Zach Wilson is complete garbage. He can't. I mean, he's almost worse than Danny DeVito.
Dude, I think we're being too
close
hard on the
because
guy.
Jets
We don't know
defense
who
is-
he is, dude.
Huh?
We don't know who Danny DeVito is.
That's
Pretty
bad.
harsh.
But it'll be close because the Jets defense is so good.
Yeah.
But the Raiders are going to play a game plan where they're not going to make Aiden O'Connell make a bunch of crazy throws. Dude, you still have Devontae Adams too.
Right.
You're not going to have Sauce on him the whole time. So the Raiders win by 3.
Back to back for the Raiders. Going for those 2 wins in a row. What do you got, Wes?
Yeah, I agree. I think they got some momentum here. They played so well defensively. Max Crosby had 3 sacks, 8 sacks overall. Their defense looked better. So yeah, I got the Raiders by 4. I think you do see Trevor Siemian in this game. I think they're about ready to pull the plug on Zach if he doesn't play well in the first half.
Yeah, granted the Raiders were playing the Giants last week as well, so there's that. But I think the Jets are just as bad as the Giants for the most part. Their defense is obviously better, but overall as a team, the Jets, they're not that good this year. So they have to score some points to beat the Raiders, and I don't think they're going to score a lot. So I guess even with the tough New York defense, the Raiders, maybe even if they put up 17 points, they still
Yeah.
win this game by a touchdown.
Well, and they looked totally different. Like, okay, the Bears are not very good this year. The Giants aren't very good this year, right? The Bears made the Raiders look horrible. And then
Yeah.
totally different game where the Raider, that was.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's the mentality of the players and the locker room and everything that means just as much as your game plan and what you're doing. When those guys, they look like they wanted to play again. They were fired up, and that's important. And you saw that with them last game.
Yeah. Well, that's what everyone talks about is if you've ever had a micromanaging boss that made your job horrible. And then once they left, how much relief you had. Think about us in high school. If we would have had Keck our junior year and then maybe JT our senior year, how much more
Right.
harder we would have played.
Yeah, exactly. No, and the coach, that's the thing. It's the coach makes a big difference, right? And the mental mentality makes a big difference of the players. And so you could game plan is great, but if your players aren't happy to be there and want to play for you, then you're not going to win a lot of games. And I think that's what showed in the Raiders last week, and I think it's going to continue for the rest of the season for them.
And here's my prediction here. This game will catapult Max Crosby as the leader for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. He's already, easily one of the top edge rushers.
Yeah, but
right?
he gets afterthought though.
Right.
The dude here, like we talked about this is the crazy stat. This is almost like the Jordan to LeBron, like how many games you play a week, defensive linemen to play 100% of the snaps in games in the last 2 seasons. Max Crosby 8 times. No one else has more than 1.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
that is an insane stat. I mean, just looking at his stats so far, though, he's got 9.5 sacks and 13
Right.
tackles for loss. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Right, but everyone's like Miles Garrett and TJ
Yeah.
Watt and
Nick Bosa,
yeah, it's always Crosby's farther down.
right? Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. If he plays like he did last week, continues to play like that you could definitely see him. I could see him taking a defense player of the year.
Well, and this is, they have to win this game if they want Antonio Pierce.
Right.
Right?
But yeah, if they the rest of the season obviously is going to determine that, right? If he stays on as coach. So,
Right. For me, if they go 500 or, as close to 500, then I'd keep him because if you look, they got Kansas City twice, the Dolphins, they got a tough road.
right.
Their easy games are behind them, which Josh McDaniels screwed up big time with. I mean, seriously. So,
Yeah, we'll see how that finishes out for them. Let's see. Last game, West Denver at Buffalo, Monday Night Football. What do you got?
I got Buffalo because they're playing Denver. And again, there's no love lost between the Broncos and I. So I take the Bills big to bounce back and win by 17.
Yeah, I don't see how Buffalo can afford to lose this game. Just as their for their team mental health, like you have to go in at home and you have to beat Denver, right? And on the big stage of Monday Night Football. So uh, this has to be at least a 10-point Buffalo win. So I'm taking Buffalo by 10.
whoever is in charge of schedule making needs to be fired. We start this week off with Panthers Bears.
Right.
We end with Bills Broncos.
Yeah. And Sunday night is Jets Raiders.
Our co-cell would not be happy right now at the end of the
And it's like, oh, no, we don't want 49ers Jaguars having a primetime game.
Right. uh
But yeah, the Bills, it's the easy one there. Everyone's talking like they're done, so they're going to come out. This is just like they did the beginning of the season where they looked like, oh, Bills, and then the Bills destroyed the Raiders. It's going to happen again.
Give me a massacre.
It is. And then
Massacre
the
on
Bills
Monday
will
night.
choke in the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs and then choke. And then I think it will be the end of I think McDermott will be gone and it's going to be the end of their run for a little bit.
yeah, you just hard to trust the Bills in the playoffs, that's for sure. And at some point you got to look at saying, oh, well, Josh Allen's best playoff win was a loss to Kansas City. That's really not a win, right? Uh, but the advantage to this poor schedule making is that we're both guaranteed to be able to watch our teams because you guys got Sunday night football and I got Thursday night. So uh, there is that advantage to them
Yeah, and then
poorly
Grayson's having
scheduled.
his kid's birthday party on Sunday afternoon, so
Right.
works out.
All right. Well, not a lot of swing games here. Gosh, we only had one.
There was a few. I had
I
the
think
Cards.
I think that was the only one.
Wes had the Jaguars.
Oh yeah, yeah. So two total.
And now this is going to be a week where we lose
Right, we're
10
gonna go like
seconds.
4-10.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here with a little fantasy football. Tough week last week. My team's just decimated by injuries and buys, and now I've dropped back into second place, all the way back to 5-4.
It was a good week for me.
Yeah, you're making up a little bit of ground. You're back to 4-5.
I'm the third leading scorer at 4-5.
Yeah, Mike's pulling away from me now because I had another poor week.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's you're right back in it because Wes is 5-4. Team John, you never can trust that at 6-3, and you play Big Mike this week, so you get that win and you're right back in it.
Well, yeah, let's
And
see if I get that win. Who else is playing? So I know it can. Well, you got Team John. That'll be tough.
yeah, I mean my team's rough this week again, so hopefully I can win, but we'll see.
If Team Knight beats Order in the Courtland, that helps me out. I don't know about your buddy Legion of Boom. He hasn't he's trying, but
Yeah, well, Raul doesn't know football that well, but at least he
at least
changes
he's
his team.
trying.
I know, at
That's
least he
what
changes his team. That's awesome.
yeah.
And my sister got her second win in a row. Look at
I
that.
know.
She's on a
How's that?
two-game winning streak.
How is that now with a family bragging rights?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're split. We split the season.
But she can always
Uh,
say, I don't know as much.
yeah. Yeah, my team's got to turn it around here because I can't miss the playoffs. So we'll see. And the West, you're falling down to 5-4. A little bit of slide. Yeah, you got a pretty good team though. I think long term, Wes, your team's got the good sustainability there.
I'm looking, my remaining schedule. I'm looking pretty good here. If I win, because I got my Big Mike, Wes, Team John, Raul, and then your sister.
Well, you definitely
So if I could
might get a
get through
few
the
wins.
hard, if I could beat Wes and Team John and Big Mike, that will help out big time because then I can bring them back down.
Yeah, it'd be a good run back to the playoffs if you make it. Looking pretty rough there when you're at like what 2-5 or 1-4 or something like that. I don't remember what you were at, but
And it was, yeah, it
yeah, it was
was.
pretty bad.
It was, yeah, 2-5, and then I was two and wait, no, yeah, 2-5.
Yeah, and then you won two in a row. So
Mm.
yeah, well, not a lot to say in fantasy world anymore because it's like, there's not many pickups left. I mean, the players that you got or what you got. You may see a few injuries here and there. I don't think anything was really like sticks out now as far as there's been this big pickup or injury somebody should go out and get. Although, what's his name? Noah Brown had a huge game for the
Right, but the problem is they've got
Texans.
Nico Collins and Tank Dell there too,
Yeah, exactly. So it's
and
just
they
not
have
a
big games
consistent.
also. So, but in our league, who's available? Arthur Smith's favorite player, Johnu Smith.
Right. Yeah, maybe we should pick him up. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave any comments. Coming up here near the end of the season. We're still, I mean, we haven't had our best season, but just looking overall numbers as far as our picks, we're not doing too bad. We're still around that 60-70% mark. So definitely you want to keep, I mean, if you're just betting money line on us, you're probably doing pretty well this season. Get a few money line parlays going. Just gotta make sure you don't pick the wrong ones.
Wes, what's the parlay of the week?
I don't know. Yeah, I gotta look. I haven't really looked at it yet.
Well, let's see. How many team parlays do you do, Wes?
Usually three.
3. Well, let's do a 4 because you're going to get paid a little bit more. So if I was going to parlay 4 games right now, a money line, I would take the Bengals. I would take the Ravens, take the Cowboys, and I'll take the Seahawks or the Bills. Maybe I'll do a 5 team.
Yeah.
Bills, Seahawks, Ravens, Bengals.
You could do a 6, do the Steelers too.
Yeah, I don't trust the Steelers. I don't want
Cody
to throw
Pickett might.
I mean, I'm sure they'll probably I think they're going to win the game, but yeah, I don't want to mess up my parlay because I throw the Steelers in. So, we'll see. So that's my pick for anybody still listening and wants to throw a bet out there. All right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.